Yeah.
To make sure we recorded it.
Yeah.
She was really sad that she couldn't be here. She said she had to finish this broker's class.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll get going. And I just hit record, Willa, so you're in good shape. And today we're going to talk about the contract and get through it, how to do it, what to do. And we're going to talk about when and how to use a general addendum, when and why. So with that in mind, something that I want to say before we get started. If you haven't noticed yet, the actual doing of the business is pretty simple, and there's a lot of support for that. Generating the business is difficult. And what we want to make sure that you understand is that the support is here for this type of work. We will help you with contracts. We will help you with when a general addendum is the right thing to do. We will help you with all kinds of stuff like that. What we can't do other than coach you on how is generate that business for you. If we hand an agent a buyer, it's pretty easy for them to say, okay, I'm going to go show them property. I'm going to go find something for them. Doing the business is pretty simple. Generating the business is hard. And this is a twofold business. So as we get into this today, don't think that you have to know everything today. Don't think that you have to have all of this down, because you have brokers and staff and everybody else here that can help you on the message thread, or that you can call. I do want to address the whole messaging on our message thread. Hey, is there somebody that can help me? That puts out a weird vibe to me. Does that put out a weird vibe to anybody else? Because my answer is going to start being, of course, someone is here that can help you. We've always been here to help you. Putting that out on the message thread is for me, and it's not intended this way. I totally get that. But for me, it's like, I can't get a hold of anybody when you haven't tried. We're here. Just call me. Just call me. Just call Keith. Just call. And putting that out, is there anybody that, I have a question. Is there anybody that can help me? Well, now everybody else on the message thread is thinking, well, I've got a chance to learn that I'm not going to get to learn now because you've taken this elsewhere. Let's use that for its purpose. And its purpose is not, is there somebody here that can help me? Of course there is. Always, 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 we can help. So use that correctly. Let's generate the business. Let's get on that. One thing that I do realize is that people in a certain quadrant feel crippled if they don't have information on how to do the business. And that's not bad. That's you trying to be worth your salt. That's you trying to have something to give. So I understand that. If you are afraid to take on a client because you don't know how to write a contract, this is your class. This is your class. It's being recorded. You're going to be fine. There are resources on the drive. The Magic Wand offer that we went over last week. That is a questionnaire that goes through every blank on the contract in English. In regular Arkansas, it goes through the contract, and it helps you be able to sound like an expert as you ask those questions and then transfer those answers. So nothing to fear, nothing to fear. Go get them, Tiger, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, Kelly.
I used it on my first, I wrote my first offer.
Hot diggity.
Used that template and it worked it, you know, I sounded like an expert, I knew what I was talking about. They were prepared for follow-ups needed from the client was great.
Can I tell you that in my near 18 years in real estate, that's the first example of that I've ever seen. And it just makes so much sense for a brokerage to have it. I'm really glad it worked for you. I'm really glad. So let me share my screen. And we're just going to open a real estate contract. Obviously, we put their name here. I'm going to do this as well. Did your hand go up, Jeff? Okay. All right. Let's put these side by side. So initially here, we have names. Of course, we have names here. Then we have whether it is a single family, a manufactured, a builder owned that is older than 1 year. That is no longer considered new construction. Do you want to know why? Anybody? Yeah, the appliance warranties are no longer in effect. Make sense? No longer a new home. So if the builder is going to warrant everything on that, it's going to be under all on him. Okay. 1 to 4 attached dwelling with land. So a quadplex, a fourplex or less. And anything bigger than a fourplex gets what kind of contract? Commercial. Yeah, commercial. And then condo townhome, and you would add a condo townhome addendum, which we won't go through today. We've got our price, and we circle the loan type over here on the Magic Wand offer. On the regular offer, we have our price right here. And then we select the type of financing. The only one that we don't see used much is B. B is something that if you ever run into a loan assumption, you really need to involve me. And if we are the listing company, I will probably promptly call the seller and say, please don't do this. This is a really bad idea, and see what happens. But, you know, in the 80s, that's how it was happening. Rates were so high that the lower rates that sellers had locked in at, they transferred that to the buyer. Other financing, what could that be? Could be owner financing. It could be somebody else is the bank. I showed a house one time near your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, Rebecca Webb, and the buyers were all excited and followed me there. And on the way there, they got a call from their lender that said, I'm sorry, your stated income to me is not what was on your tax records. The wife was a hairdresser, and she reported her income way over what she reported on her taxes because she got paid a lot of cash. And the income just wasn't there for them to be approved. And they pulled up behind me crying. And they said, we're so embarrassed. We had the pre-approval and we turned everything in and we can't get it. And now not only that, but our family's on the way because this is the one. And we're really embarrassed and we don't know what to do. And mom pulled up right then and got out, and they said, Mom, we didn't get approved. We got to go home. And she said, well, what if I'm the bank? And they said, what do you mean? Well, rates back then were around 7%, which sounds extremely high. It's not. It's not. But back then it was around 7%. She had a huge CD that was performing at 3%. She said, I'd do a lot better with that money if I were the bank. And so we sent the money through an escrow company. Bada boom, bada bing. She's making more money than she would have off of her cheap CD, and they got the house and they're paying a mortgage just like they would have. Bank of Mom. That's right. That's right. So other financing has its place. Next, we've got VA and FHA. These say that the property has to appraise for purchase price or greater, and that they have to be in decent shape. It's funny because up here we have subject to buyer's ability to obtain financing on the terms and conditions set forth herein, and the property appraising for not less than purchase price. That covers a lot more than FHA and VA. A lot of what FHA and VA have in these clauses are redundant. And then on top of that, they'll send an amendatory clause, an FHA amendatory clause to get signed that says this as well. Don't get mad at them. Here's the reason. Other states have not put this in. It's not that they're doing that because they're being redundant. They're doing that because other states don't have these clauses, and they need that in those states, so they just do it for everyone. Make sense? Okay. Over here, we're still in the same spot. On our contracts, we give everyone for your protection get a home inspection, not just if they're getting an FHA loan. Okay. Why do we do that? It's the right thing to do. CYA. Agency. Who is represented? More often than not, the listing firm will represent the seller and selling firm will represent the buyer. That's the most often. Listing firm and selling firm represent seller. When does that happen? Nope. They both represent the seller. It's not dual agency. A. When does that happen? What if you don't want to represent the buyer? What if you don't want to do dual agency as an agent? I know an agent that refuses to do dual agency, shows the properties, and she says, I only do agency where I represent the seller, but I can write the contract if you want me to. And they say, sure, go ahead. The buyer proceeds without representation. That's a little bit safer, to be honest, in a lot of ways. I don't think it's good service to someone, but it's a little bit safer. So in that case, and then I've had buyers come along that say, I don't want representation. Okay. And I've had sellers say, well, if they don't want representation, does that mean I'm only paying 3% instead of 6%? No. No, it doesn't. In the listing, it says that you're paying 6%. And if I pay a buyer's agent, So, no, it does not. Listing firm and selling firm are the same and represent both. That's C. Selling firm represents buyer, no listing firm. When does that happen? For sale by owner. Non-representation. That'll trip you up. When does that happen?
Only putting it in the MLS.
Uh-uh. No.
Selling our own property or?
Non-representation happens when one of my agents is buying a FSBO. And the FSBO is like, we're not paying any agency fees, nothing. It will still all go through this office, but I'm not going to hit you, the agent, for commission on that. Because I'm not going to hit you on commission on that, I'm also not going to take legal responsibility for it. Make sense? So that's when non-representation happens. And that has an addendum, because who represents the client? You? The principal broker. Yeah. So that's when that comes into play. Loan and closing cost. This blank is only if there is a government loan fee involved. Government loan fees happen with VA and FHA loans, and they are rare. Putting anything in this blank should only happen if you have direction from the lender that they are going to charge a government loan fee. Most of those just don't do it. If they are charging a government loan fee, I would very carefully examine with the buyer what those charges are compared to other banks, because they're probably, if they're charging a government loan fee, they're pushing on other charges most likely and just trying to make an extra buck. It's like that broker service fee garbage that other brokerages do when they're already making thousands of dollars. So this blank right here is where you would ask the seller to pay buyer's closing costs, or most recent, we've started seeing buyers offer to pay sellers' closing costs. Why are we seeing buyers offering to pay sellers' closing costs now? What, Abby? Sweeten the deal. Okay.
It guarantees them money instead of an appraisal gap, because if the house appraises, that money's left on the table.
The appraisal gap is what that takes care of. It's in replacement of that appraisal gap, because if the house doesn't appraise for that absorbent amount over market, then they are stuck and have issues. Doing it this way says, hey, I'm going to pay thousands of dollars towards your closing costs. If you're paying 6% and the property is 100,000, then I'm basically offering you 106,000 just by paying your commissions, not to mention the other closing costs associated. Does that make sense? Okay. Application for financing will be within 5 business days. What a joke. Some of these clauses are just a joke. If you are working with a buyer that has not already applied, you better know who they are. For realsies, you better know who they are. Earnest money, yes or no? If yes, then see earnest money addendum. That's why they don't go into a lot of explanation on this. Now we're finally back on this page. Will the seller be paying buyer's closing costs? Probably should add, will the buyer be paying seller's closing costs to this magic offer, so you guys don't forget that option exists. I'll get that done.
Or you could just put no and put buyer to pay sellers and then pay out. It's fine.
I'll put something in there so it won't be easy to forget. Earnest money shows the seller the buyer is serious. This practice has all but ended, as buyers are able to get earnest money refunded to them if the inspection isn't to their liking or if financing isn't secured. Good explanation of earnest money in today's world. Other markets are still using it, so it confuses people that are coming to us from other markets. However, it's the truth, and it's the truth in other markets. It's just easy to get back. If you don't want to buy a house, the easiest way out of it is to call the lender and say, hey, I need a letter saying that I'm not approved for the loan. And their lender buddy will say, no problem. They will. And they're out. So we don't want to mess with it. If you do want to mess with it, then what amount? Then we go on to non-refundable deposits. Non-refundable deposits go to the seller, and the seller uses that money right away. When they use that money right away, that means they get a check in their name, they cash it, and they spend it. What if they don't have equity for that? What if they're at zero on the house? We're seeing homes go up right now for sale, quite a bit of them. We talked about one yesterday, Bill, that the current owners haven't even been there a year. It's almost been a year, but not even. And they marked it up 60,000 and put it back on the market.
Looks like they bought it last week. They have it.
Right? What if they don't? What if they got a second?
Cough up that money.
Right? So my point is, don't abuse this deposit. Don't use it too big. Let's say it's $1 million property, and the buyer's getting a 20% down conventional loan. $1 million property, 20% down. How much is that? Yeah. Well, you're gonna put that 200,000 out anyway, Mr. Buyer. Why not just give that to them now and let that speak volumes as a non-refundable deposit after inspections agreed upon? They got $200,000 they can spend right now. Does that speak volumes to a seller? Yeah. What if the seller doesn't have 200,000 in equity? Things get a little weird. So yeah, very scary. Very scary. So be careful with that and keep that in amounts that make sense to protect your buyers. I really don't think I want to see anything over 20 grand on a big purchase, and on a regular purchase, of our average price is around 350 now. I probably don't want to see more than 2,000 to 5,000 on that.
I've heard 1% a lot of time. I mean, I
Yeah.
just did 5,000 on a $465,000 purchase.
Yeah.
And I've probably not go much any higher than that.
I think that's a good rule of thumb. I do. With that deposit, there are different ways of doing that. You can do it within blank days following the date this contract is signed. You can do it within 3 business days after agreements are made on the IRSA, inspection repair addendum, or other. And on other, I wrote, the buyer will give the seller a non-refundable deposit within 3 days after inspection, but will be refunded to buyer if the property does not appraise for the contract price. So it's a little different than earnest money, because earnest money, if funding isn't approved, then they get it back. And if inspection isn't approved, they get it back. This is a little different because they can go ahead and spend it. And they can't go ahead and spend earnest. That's just held. Okay. Conveyance. This talks about mineral rights. If there are mineral rights needed on your transaction, you've got a very different transaction than most. Some people get hung up on this, and they're buying a 1,400 square foot cookie cutter house, and the best I got for them is, Because if there's oil under there, they'd have got it. They'd have got that. Yeah. Title requirements. There are 3 types of title. Who knows what they are? Owners. Okay. The person that owns it gets title insurance. Who else gets covered? The bank. Yep. So the bank wants to protect their asset as well. That's 2 of them. What's the third one? Combo. Bring them together. Our question is, would you prefer a separate policy or a less expensive combo policy with equal coverage? Do the combo policy. Survey. Next on the list is survey. Why is it important to have a survey? You newer agents should really be railing on this one. I'm sure your class went through survey stuff.
You know, if there's any easements in the property, where the boundary lines are, if people's stuff is in the stuff.
10 years down the road, you own it and the fence is falling down. You take the fence down to rebuild it and the neighbor comes over and says, boy, am I glad you took that down. That's been encroaching on my land for ever since they built it. You need to move that back 5 feet. Really? Oh yeah, I've got my survey right here. When does a survey count for you?
Certified for you.
If it's in your name. So this whole seller will provide a copy of most recent survey. That doesn't do anything for you. If there's an issue, if all you're trying to do is find out where the corners are and where the lines are, that's probably okay. What do we create? What do we provide?
Clarity.
Clarity. So those are the reasons. If all you want to do is find out where the corners and the lines are, then we can get the most recent survey and that'll serve that purpose. If you want something that will back you up later, should there be a problem, you need to have that survey certified in your name, which if the most recent survey is done in a fairly recent time, we can probably call that survey company and just have them recertify it to you for a couple $100. If not, we probably need to get a new survey out.
When do we recommend to buyers to conduct a survey?
So let's role play that, Jeff. Okay, we're out and we're looking at a property, and I say to you, a survey that the seller has would show you the lines and the corners of this property, and it would not back you up if a neighbor came and said that there was a discrepancy. The survey would have to be in your name in order for that to happen. And we could see if it's recent enough to get that certified in your name, or we could get a new survey. Those are really your 3 options. Which would you prefer?
Yeah, I got that. I understand that. I guess my question would be on a cookie cutter residential property. Is this conversation even need to happen, or are we just talking about something with an acre or 2, kind of out and about? Does this conversation need to happen with every single buyer, even if they're buying a $200,000 home
Like
in
in a
a subdivision?
Well, let's do the next call. Let's do the next call. Jeff, I've got this 20-year-old survey. You did a great job for us, by the way, Jeff. We love the house. But my neighbor came over and said that my fence is 5 feet over. And you told me I didn't need a survey because it's in a neighborhood. Do I need a survey? Well, if you're going to fight them in court over your 5 feet of yard, you'll need a survey certified in your name to do it. Yeah. Well, they have a survey certified in their name and it shows the same lines as mine, but they're saying the fence is over. Probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is.
Survey people on the list of.
Oh, I hate them. You just never have a good survey guy, do you? Keith's nodding his head. He's like, yeah, I mean, they're in and out.
That would be the next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And then fire.
Yeah, it would. And, the first thing out, everybody says blue, and then you wait an extra month for closing.
Right.
I've had
So-
Pretty good success with Williamson.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
They're pretty good. They're not the cheapest, but they do.
Yeah.
Wilson.
That's from Jay.
Sunday.
Alan Reed does a good job. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. And don't get too hung up on this. To be real honest, the city lot stuff, you're probably okay. However, these are the reasons, and you should know this. And here's the plat map, and it shows the measurements. Here's the overhead from the tax records, and it shows the property lines, and that's where the fence is. So,
One of the things that I always do, if I know that they're gonna make some improvements on their house, then I have a little bit more of a strong conversation about.
mhm,
Because I not only want to know where the property line is, but also the easements of that.
Yeah.
About putting a patio in or a pool or something like that. So I try to ask that question if it's in a neighborhood. I mean, if it's in the country, it's almost no
Yeah.
question at all. But there are
Who-
some things, because I sold a lady a house in downtown Bentonville on a small lot. And she wanted to extend her master bedroom about 400 feet.
mhm.
And I wasn't sure there was enough room between the fence, and that's not my gig. So I observed for whatever it was, 700, 800 bucks.
And there are setback rules. Yeah. And who remembers that's sat through Maurice, through his classes, what he says about surveys? Anybody remember? There's only one person he would buy a property from and not get a survey. Jesus. Yep, that's the only person he'd buy a property from and not get a survey. So
And the buyer can pay for it.
the buyer can pay for it, seller can pay for it, or it can be split. Prorations, taxes get prorated, POA fees get prorated. Fixtures and attachments. This is a big, long list. Dishwasher, disposal, trash compactor, ranges, ovens, water heaters, exhaust fans, heating and air conditioning systems, plumbing and septic systems, electrical system, intercom system, ceiling fans, window air conditioners, carpeting, indoor and outdoor light fixture, window and door coverings and related hardware. Curtains, blinds, curtain rods, sconces, all of that stays. Okay, make sure your sellers know that. Okay. Gas or electric grills, awnings, mailboxes, garage door openers and remote controls, antennas, fireplace inserts. And then here is where you would add refrigerator, washer, and dryer at no value. Why do we say at no value? They're not attached. That means they are personal property, not real estate, and cannot be included in the value of the home for the appraisal. Okay? And that is in the drop-down clause, so you're covered. If we know that the curtains are not staying, we would put that down here, or anything else attached that is not staying, cabinets and garage. That goes in the second blank. Okay? Number 14.
When in doubt, put it in.
When in doubt, put it in. Darn right. Reduce it to writing. Always, they are. Mhm.
Your sellers, they don't need to be taking down their favorite chandelier or any lighting after they've started showing the house.
Mhm.
They love them, come take it down.
Yeah. If they have nothing else and they're still living there, they need to put it in the disclosure that they don't convey. And you need to put it in the listing that they don't convey. And then I would even put up little notes next to them for the showings that they don't convey. Okay. People still have to live in their home while they're selling it. So sometimes you've got to put in that extra bit. Contingencies. Who can have contingencies? Yes, sir. Seller has to find a place. That's a contingency that we're starting to see. This offer is contingent on seller finding a home suitable for their needs. It can be contingent on the buyer getting a job. It can be contingent on a buyer getting a inheritance. It can be contingent on so many things. So that's there. Home warranty plans. Do you know where to find out about home warranties? Where, Kelly?
AmeriShields is one, right?
Huh?
And there's a local place Bill gave me a broker for like 210.
Okay, American Home Shield and 210. Both of those brochures with prices are in the drive. If you go to the drive and type in home warranty, a folder will pop up under the search bar. Click it, open it. It'll have 210 and American Home Shield. They're there. And if you've never read those, it's a good idea too. It's a good idea too, to see what they cover. Okay, the inspection process. Yes?
Well, just like for new agents, my buyer was surprised that she had to pay the sales tax on the home warranty. For what is this?
The seller pays that.
Okay, so just make sure when you put an amount in there that you're calculating that into it. Because,
No, you're wrong.
okay, then it's the amount.
Let's check it out. Home warranties. If you open up AHS and you scroll down, you will see that a single family home warranty with AHS for a single family home. The heck? Is that their pricing?
That's the 2-year coverage.
Okay. I was like,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, 745 right here. They did. Yeah.
When I first looked at it, I said, crap.
Yeah. 745. This says a 1-year limited home warranty plan provided by AHS. Shield Complete plan paid for by seller at a cost next to not to exceed 745 plus sales tax. So the seller would pay that.
Well,
What amount was it?
That is clarification.
45, she paid over $100 more, and I mean, she wasn't, $100 over $400,000 house wasn't that big of a thing, but it kind of, she noticed it and she wasn't happy about that because it's not what we written down.
Yeah, so let's find out what the title company did there, because that's a title company issue, not a, you did right. Yeah,
It wasn't a gigantic.
and you put 850 in,
No, we put exactly what you did.
745.
Yeah, we did that. But then at closing, they had closing was supposed to start at 1. Of course, she gets there 15 minutes earlier. 15 minutes into the closing. So they'd already talked about that part, but it changed the amount on the check she had to write.
Sure.
And so, but I just assumed, I was like, well, maybe it wasn't the sales tax.
We'll look at that. We need to get this
I
done.
don't
We'll
want
look at
someone
that.
else to
Yeah.
cost that.
One thing I would say is it's a really good idea to do the coverage so your clients understand that it's not
Yes.
automatically replacing.
Right.
Basically, they wait until it can't. And there are some things like they only pay for a certain amount, free on it, they come out.
Yes.
So, and I've learned some of this the hard way. By having my client call me and say, why did I have to pay for 2 gallons of Freon?
Yes.
Yeah, I will say too, that the coverage has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And I see a lot less value in them than I used to. Has anybody else experienced that?
Plus the service
Because they
charges.
pay the service fee and you have to pay more, you have to pay a
Right.
percentage of it too.
Yeah,
The saving of $100
yeah,
on the last AC.
yeah. What I like to do is I like to give the buyer the 210 and the AHS copies. And realize too, when you're listing properties, that the seller could have some coverage if they're agreeing to go ahead and market that they are providing a warranty. So there you have it. Let's talk about the inspection. The inspection period is fairly simple, and I'm gonna go through it right here on the magic wand offer. Buyers most commonly request 10 business days to inspect the home. During that process, the buyer will have the right to request that the seller makes repairs to items found. The seller will have 5 business days to respond to the buyer's request. If the seller does not agree to make the repairs or agrees to make a different level of repairs requested, the buyer will have 5 business days to reply to the seller's request. The buyer may terminate due to inspection at any time during this process. Pretty simple. What happens if the seller does not respond within the 5 business days? That's right. You assume that that's a no. And then the buyer needs to decide whether they want to continue or terminate. What if the buyer does not respond to the seller's response within 5 business days?
When they are accepting the property as is.
Yes. What if the buyer doesn't turn anything in within the 10 business days? They've waived their right to request repairs. Yes, it's an as-is purchase from that point on. If you don't pay attention to those 10 business days and you miss that, you may be on the hook for a really expensive repairs. Really expensive. On top of that, I won't help you because we even put in the calendar when you should have that done if you turn in your contract. So
Turn it in before 10.
before the 10 business days, that's right. So that's the inspection process. 10 days to get requests in, 5 days for the seller's reply, 5 days for your buyer's reply, and they can terminate it anytime during that.
How quick do you have to get the inspection like ordered?
You need to do it right. This is the first thing after everybody signs. Even before you-
Absolutely.
you have them contact inspectors. You never know how far out.
I had to call 4 companies to find one that could do it soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Rebecca said, it's happening right now where you've got to call multiple because they're so busy. It's a good business for some people to be getting in. It really is.
And if you can't, then you gotta go back to the seller and try to work something.
Extend it.
You can't extend it, so don't let it go too long.
So let's say you get it under contract, same day you get it under contract, you call 5 different inspectors and all of them say I'm booked. One of them says I can do it the day after. That is a time when you need to use a general addendum. So that's our first example of using a general addendum. The general addendum references something in the contract and changes it. Okay? So on that general addendum, you would write per paragraph 16, inspection period to be extended to date. Make sense? Okay.
Make sure when the time you go back and draft, maybe the date. You may not
Yeah.
report back.
Yeah. Give time for that report review.
You advise, the send a foundation specialist or a plumber out to check something on that.
It's another reason that it's good to schedule it as early as possible.
Right.
Do
Yeah.
those add-on inspections.
It's also a good reason to, know a couple home inspectors really well. They don't do inspections on Saturday. I've had them.
Yeah, I've had them jump in and do it too. I will say, Rebecca, with your example, that can be put in the repair request section.
Okay,
So let's say your inspector said, this is beyond my scope of knowledge. You need to have a roofing company come out and take a look at it. You need to have a foundation company, an electrician, a plumber. Those are the four most often that you hear. You would put in the URSA in your initial request, sellers to allow buyers to send a foundation specialist to review the foundation and cooperate with repair requirements from specialists or something along those lines. Make sense? And that would allow that to be an ongoing beyond inspection date. That would allow that to continue on outside of that. Third-party requirements, this says FHA, VA, and RD have things about the home that they want to make sure exist and are right. And if they aren't right, then the seller is going to cooperate with that. So windows cracked, FHA is not going to go for that. They've got that's a third party saying we need more. Property disclosure, you request a copy of it, or B is you request a copy of it. A is you have a copy of it. If you have a copy of it, you need to go ahead and send it along with the offer and have it signed by the buyer. Signing the property disclosure does not say that you are happy with the condition of the home. It says that you've received a copy of the property disclosure. That's all it says. I got a copy of it. Okay.
If we back up,
Uh-huh.
if a seller's selling a home as is, they sign this, you feel like they're agreeing to make repairs that are lender required?
No, that means paragraph 17 means that they know that lenders may have a requirement, that they understand that. It doesn't mean that they'll agree to do them. Yeah. Any requirements for repair by FHA, RD, creditor, termite company, or any other third-party requirements shall be delivered to seller promptly upon receipt by buyer. Seller shall have 5 business days to respond to the third-party requirements, or buyer may accept the property in its condition at closing, as well as the responsibility of completion of the third-party requirements, or terminate. So, yeah, they can say no.
Those may need to be done before the close.
Yeah,
The buyer accepts them. So
most of the time they do.
Right, that means they have
Yeah.
money out of their pocket.
Yeah. And if it's not going to happen before closing, then the lender needs to approve escrow, money to be held in escrow to cover those repairs. And if that can't be done, then you're up a creek. You're in trouble. Yeah. And a lot of times what we've seen, especially on lower income homes, really cheap ones, we've seen people agree to let the buyers go ahead and come in and make repairs, which is terrifying, because what if they don't know what the heck they're doing and screw it up? So yeah, kind of a scary situation there.
Or what if it blows up at the end and your buyer
Yeah.
just spent money on someone else's home?
Right. Property disclosure. We have the disclosure, we've signed it and we've sent it back, and the disclosure was created by the seller on such and such date. Next, buyer requests a written disclosure. They want the seller to provide one. Next, although a disclosure may have been completed, we don't want it. Why? I've seen it lately. I've seen it lately. No. If there is a disclosure, why wouldn't you want that? Do not mark C.
Why would that clause even be in there?
I don't know. What is a disclosure for?
I mean, I guess if they were gonna like tear the building down,
Still,
but
what if they put in that disclosure, we covered up the asbestos with vinyl siding, and now you're going to tear down the building. You've got asbestos to deal with. No. No, no, no. Don't mark it. I will send it back. Brokers, send it back. Don't do it. How about this one? No disclosure form is available and will not be provided by seller.
You see that with rental properties all the time.
We see it with rentals. The owner never lived there and they were out of state and had a management company. They've never even seen the property.
I've got one condo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a requirement for a seller to fill one of these out as part of
Mm-mm.
the listing?
They have to fill it out to the best of knowledge that they have of the property. They've never lived there. They don't know.
Even then, I hate that. Get one that says unknown to every question. What is a disclosure for? I'm going to ask it again. What's a disclosure for?
I believe it protects the seller.
How?
That if you disclose it, then it's already out there and the buyer has seen it. You get it signed, saying they've seen it. They can't come back on the seller and say, well, you didn't tell me that it had a leak in the bathroom in 19.
How does it protect the buyer?
A little bit more about what they're getting into.
Our first winter in our first house, I crawled under, there was water gushing out from underneath our home. It was a crawl space. I crawled underneath there. Our inspector told me that the plumbing underneath was amazing. He said, you've got all brand new plumbing. I crawled underneath and I'm freezing and water spraying all over me. It was garden hose. Everything was connected together under there with garden hose. You think that was disclosed?
And we paid for an inspection.
And we paid for an inspection that told us we had brand new plumbing.
Yeah.
Who was that inspector?
He's not on your list. No, he's a very project.
It was new. It wasn't code, but it was new.
It was very new.
So, what if I came out from under there and my neighbor walked up and he said, so you found the garden hose, huh? I'd be like, yeah, I found, how do you know about that? And I don't. Well, the owner was over here bragging to me about how he just patched this together with garden hose and duct tape. And what if the neighbor came over telling me something like that? And it's not in the disclosure.
Now you're in a lawsuit.
Now we're in a lawsuit.
Is there any accountability that can be held against the inspector for that?
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely. And if I'd have been a little older and wiser, I would have came after him. But it does, it protects both parties. Disclose what you know, because you don't want it coming back after you. Mark unknown on everything. If you don't know, that's fine. Mark unknown. You never lived there? Fine, mark unknown. You didn't know, you never lived there. However, if a neighbor comes up and says, yeah, the owner was here and I talked to him and they said this and they said that, then we want something for our buyer that says unknown, right? Does that make sense? That our buyer would have something that says unknown that they could take to an attorney and says, I have a witness that says the seller knew. And then this says they didn't know anything. I believe it's best to always get a disclosure, even if it says unknown. There are builders that will not give a disclosure. They refuse. Banks refuse. A lot of banks refuse to give disclosure. It's just the way it is. Just the way it is. But when you can get one, get one. Termite. Arkansas has termites. The loans here require a termite contract. Sellers pay for that. It's how it is. Lead-based paint built before 78. It will have, built 78 or earlier, it'll have a lead-based paint addendum. Make sure you get that. Built later, it will not. Insurance has to do with the condition of the property. Everything that has to do with the condition of the property occurs in the first 10 business days. If you link that with the inspection, insurance inspection, 10 business days, insurance inspection, 10 business. Nobody wants to do that with me. Okay. 10 business days has to do with the condition of the property. If the property is not insurable, you're done. They can't get a loan. The loan requires that they have insurance. So within the first 10 business days, it's a very good idea. If you're getting a new construction home, are you worried about that? If you're getting a newer home, are you worried about that? If you're getting a home built in the 80s with its original roof, are you worried about that? Yeah. The biggest thing that homes get turned down for insurance on is the roof. So probably be a good idea to have a roofing company come talk to us about how to recognize a bad roof.
What shop arounds, some insurance
Yeah.
companies will do it, others might turn it down.
And some won't even go look. Someone, they're like, okay,
That's right.
yeah. Closing date, generally 30 days out. My favorite closing day is Thursday. Thursdays are a great day to have closings. You schedule a closing for Monday, they don't have time to work on the day before. You schedule it on Tuesday, you miss a Tuesday morning meeting. You schedule it on Wednesday, that's okay, but it's the middle of the week and now the buyer has, 2 work days before they can really start moving in. You schedule it for Thursday, and if something goes wrong, it'll close Friday. Okay? That's the buffer that I like. Make sense? Okay. Possession upon closing. What does closing mean?
Funds reach the seller.
Closing means all parties have signed the closing documents and the seller has received their money and the buyer is satisfied with the current condition of the property. Everybody signed, everybody's done. Everybody's got their money, everybody paid their money. Done. Okay? Other is a general addendum within the contract. Okay? You can put anything you want in there. However, if it has nothing to do with any of the paragraphs, you're probably out of line. It's a good rule. If it has nothing to do with any of the paragraphs, if you can't find reference for a reason for it, you're probably out of line. Okay? Also, the less you say in paragraph 30 and in a general addendum, the better you are. Okay? If you can't say it in a couple sentences, you're probably out of line. The worst general addendums I've seen are like this. What's crazy to me is that paragraph 30 used to be the whole page. You remember that, Evan? Yeah, it was the whole page.
I used to turn contracts in my book, would say practicing law.
Yep, that's exactly right. You're practicing law. If you're not referencing a paragraph, then you're probably practicing law. Per paragraph 32, seller will pay all attorney fees. Never write that.
Bad example.
Yeah, bad example. Licensee disclosure. One or more parties to this real estate contract acting as a buyer holds a real estate license. C, one or more owners of any entity acting as buyer or seller. This is if Jason and Rebecca were buying a property. We both have a real estate license. This, C, is if Jason Smith Realtor LLC doing business as Smith and Associates is buying a property because the owners of that entity hold a real estate license. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's the real estate contract. Now you're under contract. And you find out, oh my gosh, the inspector can't get out there in time. We need a general addendum per paragraph 16. Inspection date to be. Inspection completion. Repair request to be to sell or buy. Something like that. And you put the date. Let's say you get a phone call and the list agent says, hey, the seller really doesn't want that washer and dryer set. Would your buyer like them? And you call your buyer and they say, yes, I would like those. That'd be great. Reduce it to writing. General addendum. Per paragraph. Is there a paragraph we can reference? Per paragraph 13. Washer and dryer convey at no value. Why at no value? It's not real estate, it's personal property. Has nothing to do with the value of the home. What happens if you don't reduce it to writing? How do we know? When you have a change in terms and you're under contract, that's when you use a general addendum. What if you're not meeting closing date? Yeah, closing date modification. Is that a change in terms? What if the builder says, man, I don't know when we're going to be done, but surely we'll be done by blah, blah, blah. Why general addendum then?
No later than.
Closing to be on or before. Yeah. And the closing date modification doesn't allow for that. So a change in terms after you're under contract warrants a general addendum. Okay. The general addendum references the contract. It is part of the contract per contract serial number, right? Let's look at this full legal description. Will that always fit? See general addendum number. Is that better than see attached? Why? What are we allowed to do as far as documents go? Huh? What is a Word document? Was that written by an attorney? No, we can fill in the blanks on a general addendum. I think so. I actually don't do a Word document with that. I send out the inspection. And with HiOz, they can select on their website which repairs they want made, and it creates a report. And so I say, see attached, because I didn't fill that out.
I mean, I've received
Yeah.
that, and I've done, I have also
Yeah,
referenced the contract at the top
right.
and called it appendix A or whatever.
And I'm okay with that. I'm
Yeah,
okay with
because I've
that.
received things like
Yeah.
that. I've also sent inspection reports. and seen
Yeah.
reference to inspection
Yeah.
reports.
That's not something that you're really writing. That's something you're referencing. So I'm okay with that. But when you write up a Word document, you're practicing law. Will it get you in trouble? Probably not. Probably not. See attached legal and it's on a Word document, you're probably okay. And I'd put at the top of the Word document, if I did that, per residential real estate contract number. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably do that. But if you're going to do that, might as well use a general addendum. Yeah. Sir. Yeah,
Because I've had, especially the builders, they go past the expiration that's in the contract. and
yeah.
already signed it.
They go past completion date, they go past closing date, they go past every date.
Require anything if everybody signs it.
If everybody signs it and everybody's in agreement, I would still do, after it's all signed and done, I would still do a general addendum that says expiration day and time is. And here's why. Let's say that the buyer says, you know what, I'm cool with that. If they'll sign it, market's been so hard, we just want to get under contract. That's fine. What do they keep doing? They're under contract. What do people still do after they're under contract? Look online. They keep looking. They find something they absolutely love right next door to their parents. Oh my gosh, it's a dream. It's a dream. We have an out. We have an out. They didn't sign in time. And they're right. They're right. What did we talk about with the washer and dryer? Hey, does your buyer want a washer and dryer? Seller really doesn't want them. Yeah, they do. Let me reduce that to writing. We want to reduce everything to writing. On the general addendum, I've gotten in the habit of not putting an expiration on those. Because especially with builders, they just don't get to it. They just don't get to it. So, yeah.
So one of the things I run into with these condos is the guy travels, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm working with. The buyer, he also travels, so we've already done some modification. I've gone through and crossed through the time
Yeah.
of the date, change the date, have an initial with the sign it, and we're still now. So I told
Yeah.
you guys this morning, just have the buyer let me do contract. Because
Yeah.
it's been,
So
guys,
long,
like 3
yeah.
days past what we did on the last one.
So we get past it, but everybody's under agreement. What's that a change of? Terms. What's a general addendum used for? Change of terms. So anytime terms change after you're under contract, that's paragraph 36. Per paragraph 36, expiration is. Yep. Make sense? That's the use of a general addendum. And Will, I hope that answered that for you and helps you. I'm going to stop share real quick. And that's all I got for today. Favorite part of the class, Bill? Yeah, it's good to talk through the contract. It is. Good, good. What'd you learn?
About the non-representation.
Oh.
I always thought it was people that were just putting listings in and they weren't actually
They are represented. They are
just
poorly represented. But if you take payment for doing real estate for someone, then you are representing them. Yeah, yeah. John?
Just a good overall review of the whole contract. It's always good to go back and brush it up. Sure.
Cool. Garrison?
I agree with John. I mean, and when you couple with the whole magic wand thing, just kind of makes it pretty simple.
Kelly?
General addendum.
Yeah. Yeah. Something changes or won't fit. That's when we use it. Yeah. Evan?
Non-representation, that I haven't had that clarified before, and it was also the first time I heard that a buyer can take responsibility for third-party repairs. Not that that's a good idea.
Yeah. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Felicia?
Clarification on the general.
Yeah. Abby?
All of it.
All of it. Good. Becca?
Signing the seller's property disclosures.
Yeah. Isn't that a good one?
Reminder.
Yeah.
It's just signifying I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Keith?
I think it's refreshing to go through the contract.
Yeah.
Good questions. And I think it also brings up some maybe things to talk about, like next time, like maybe when you're doing FHA loan, it might be good to know some of the things you look for, what to let your buyer know whether or not they're gonna have a potential problem.
Yeah.
I think going through this form brings up other questions.
Yeah.
Topics, so I think that's
Richie?
Probably the general within the plan. I think it's fine.
Good. Good. Malia?
I actually learned a lot because I'll be a future seller here really soon, and I don't know how I can help you guys in my role, but it just helped me a lot personally. So
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
McGregor?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I liked under the non-fundable, the see other with the appraisal language.
Good. Good. They can go ahead and spend it, but we've got a way to get it back if we need it. That's an important clause in today's market, I think. Stephanie?
I liked all of that. I help agents with contracts sometimes, so it's a good refresher for me and just a lot more in detail. So all of it was good for me.
Good. Did we lose Susan? Oh, there she is. What was your favorite thing, Susan?
It was all great.
Good.
Just enjoyed just going through that magic wand offer and just seeing it side by side like that. So it was just really a good opportunity for me to see it all come together. So
Good, good. I'll tell you guys, my favorite part of the meeting is that there are two parts of this business. That's my favorite part. What are the two parts of the business? Work,
Generating and responding.
generating and doing. Yep. And doing the business, doing the contracts, guys. You've got the magic wand offer. How easy was that to go through, Kelly?
Good.
So easy. And how well does it line up to the contract?
Whatever.
Covered everything, and it just lines it up and gets it done. You have the tools that you need. You need to learn to generate the business. That's my favorite part of the meeting. I can help you through a contract. Rebecca, you had a contract to write. What did I do? Help you through it. No problem. Anybody else here ever had that experience with me?
And we'll keep that one through line.
Okay.
Thanks, Keith.
Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it. We're here for you. Generate the business. Go out and get to work on that. And for a long time, those are the classes that we were having, was how to generate that business. Flow, 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 flow. If you don't have a database, create your database. If you're not doing an 8 and 8 to activate that database, to know who you are and what you do that. If you're not doing a 2 postcards a month and a newsletter a month to people, and doing your Ford calls and doing your face-to-face meetings and doing those on purpose and marking them off on your list so you know how well you're keeping track of everyone instead of just your favorites, and then moving them to a warm list if you're recognizing a life change, and then having a hot list so you know who you're working with and working on purpose with them. Guys, if you're not doing those things, this won't matter. All the knowledge, all the education will just be for entertainment. Education without action is entertainment. So that's not what we're here for. And that's not what you're here for. I know that. I know that. So that's it. That's what I got. Love you guys. I'll see you soon.